Vanessa Moody, and I've spent my past 4 years studying bioengineering, neuroengineering, and mathematics. In all of these fields, I've traversed into using data science techniques as a tool, for example, to examine how information propagates across social networks, or to build models of how information cascades through layers of our visual system, tuning one specific cell to fire in response to, say, a picture of Jennifer Aniston. Data science and its computational prowess in creating simple models of complex systems is incredibly versatile and useful in today's modern world. Yet there is one problem with data science techniques, a problem which has the potential to do large evil in the hands of evildoers. It is not transparent. The simple models still obfuscate the sequential steps a data science algorithm took to build its classification model or reach its ultimate decision. While I had been at some level aware of this, taking the BFS course, Emerging Technology and the Future of the World, brought some of the very real, very deleterious effects of this data science symptom to light. Today, I'll talk a bit about a term paper I ended up writing for this course, in which I considered the ripple effect opaque data science algorithms can cause in real-world systems. There are a gamut of reasons I could give as to why we should not blindly trust decisions arrived at by machines. One opinion I formulated throughout this course was that sometimes we distrust machines for the wrong reasons. Likely due to the anthology of science fiction movies on machines with a mind of their own, we often fear machines yielding any form of autonomy. And who can blame us when sometimes Alexa, with no prompting whatsoever, laughs at us? I have a video actually, and it goes a little something like this.
Alexa, replay.
Right. So, this incident does not indicate autonomy. Rather, it is the end of a logical decision tree Alexa went through to arrive at the creepy laugh you just heard. This decision tree started with Alexa parsing hundreds of audio datasets of speakers commanding, Alexa, laugh, culminating in the penultimate step of Alexa deciding it had indeed heard this key phrase, and finally resulting in playback of the person-machine hybrid laughter you just heard. Thus, the real problem was not Alexa making an autonomous choice to laugh, rather, it was the product of speech datasets of the Alexa laugh phrase that Alexa was trained to listen to, or to listen for in her local environment. Perhaps a few of these sample datasets were mumbled, and perhaps this led to Alexa deciding incorrectly that background noise she was picking up translated into that phrase, Alexa laugh. So what happens when the dataset is biased structurally? For example, when Alexa is trained off of Google image searches, which respond to the term CEO by displaying overwhelmingly male pictures? Or what happens when, in the criminal justice system, an algorithm trained to predict likelihood that offenders will reoffend in the future, recidivism, is trained on data where black offenders are caught reoffending more often than white offenders? After conducting a literature review of sorts into the niche intersection of criminal justice and recidivism algorithms, I concluded that the strongest solution is increasing transparency. The current state-of-the-art recidivism predictive algorithm is known as COMPASS and was created by Equivalent to aid judges determining sentencing time. It isn't being used widely, but it has incited enough alarm through its use in a courtroom in Wisconsin. Essentially, COMPASS determines a recidivism risk score based off of 137 questions. However, there are several steps along the training, implementation, and evaluation of COMPASS at which bias from the outside world could be injected into the ultimate decision. The first is the training of the algorithm. As I mentioned previously, the statistics on who reoffends and who does not are not predicated on actual rates of recidivism. Rather, they were built from recidivism, which was actually caught. And in the context of modern America, there are high levels of racial disparity in incarceration rates, levels that do not necessarily correspond to statistically significant higher crime rates. The next real-world bias that tarnishes the gilded objective lens of this algorithm are the survey questions built into the risk score. Many of the survey questions are suggestive, such as the confirmatory question, "A hungry person has a right to steal." The survey can also be filled out independently or through interview. Both the content in and the medium of this questionnaire influence the risk score ultimately assigned. Finally, the algorithm has an equivalent true positive rate between white and African Americans, but does so at a cost. The false positive rate is significantly higher for African Americans. This is ipso facto in statistics. If recidivism is higher for Black Americans, in order to tune the algorithm to predict recidivism correctly between white and African Americans, the trade-off is more African Americans being inaccurately accused. However, this statistical artifact is intolerable in the real world and has spurred denouncements from journal after journal. While I am not surprised that Compass is a failure today, I don't believe Compass has to be a failure forever. I think despite the inevitable shortcomings mentioned above, the algorithm has a chance if it addresses one key problem: its failure to adhere to due process in not presenting a valid argument for how it arrived at its final risk score decision. However, in the land of proprietary AI, this is hard. Equivant does not want to release its trade secret algorithm, and regulatory legislation is far from covering AI. In my paper, I go on to propose a conceptual solution for regulating neural network technologies. Rather than revealing the wet work of the neural network, the weights it learns, the architecture of the network, etc., why not make a network accessible to certain requests? I frame these requests as similar to GET requests we make when fetching data online. The user asks for a parcel of information adhered to an HTTP browser, and it is displayed. In this case, the user might ask how important a criminogenic question, such as "a hungry person has a right to steal," is in determining the final decision. Then, regulation could take the form of asking corporations to adhere to query standards, rather than asking corporations to disclose their entire algorithm. While I haven't built a platform for this conceptual approach, I have published the article to Medium. If you have further interest in this topic, I recommend giving it a read. The Medium article is under an algorithmic accountability framework inspired by RESTful APIs. Thank you so much for your time.